The question of what Prince William's first day as king might look like has fascinated royal commentators for years, not because anyone can predict the future with certainty, but because many observers believe his reign could represent one of the most significant generational transitions the monarchy has experienced in modern times. Whenever discussions emerge regarding the future of the crown, attention almost inevitably turns toward Prince William. As heir to the throne, he occupies a unique position within the institution. He is close enough to the center of power to understand how the monarchy currently functions, yet young enough to be associated with the challenges, expectations, and realities that will define the decades ahead. According to several royal analysts, this combination has encouraged growing public curiosity about the kind of king William might eventually become. Would he preserve existing traditions exactly as they are? Would he introduce meaningful reforms? Would he attempt to balance continuity and modernization in ways previous monarchs never considered? These questions have generated extensive discussion among royal observers because many believe William has been preparing for future leadership far longer than most people realize. Several palace commentators have suggested that one of the biggest misconceptions surrounding Prince William is the belief that his preparation for kingship remains entirely theoretical. In reality, observers argue that much of his preparation has already been taking place for years. As King Charles III gradually assumed the responsibilities of monarch and later faced periods of health challenges, William's public role expanded considerably. He increasingly represented the crown at major engagements, participated in significant national events, and became more deeply involved in the operational responsibilities associated with senior royal leadership. According to many commentators, these experiences provided William with something that cannot be learned from protocol manuals or constitutional documents: practical experience. Practical experience navigating public expectations. Practical experience managing institutional responsibilities. Practical experience balancing tradition with the realities of a rapidly changing world. Several palace observers have argued that this gradual accumulation of experience may explain why discussions regarding William's future reign often emphasize preparedness rather than uncertainty. Unlike historical heirs who sometimes waited decades without substantial involvement in day-to-day royal responsibilities, William has spent years operating increasingly close to the center of decision-making. That proximity has reportedly allowed him to develop a clearer understanding of both the monarchy's strengths and the challenges it may face in the future. According to royal commentators, one theme consistently appears whenever analysts discuss William's long-term vision: efficiency. Over the years, observers have frequently associated William with the idea of a more focused and streamlined monarchy. Not a smaller monarchy for the sake of reduction. Not change simply for the purpose of appearing modern, but a monarchy that places greater emphasis on effectiveness, public value, and clearly defined responsibilities. Several analysts have suggested that this perspective reflects broader changes occurring throughout society. Modern audiences often expect institutions to justify their relevance through visible results rather than historical prestige alone. As a result, many commentators believe William understands that maintaining public confidence will require more than preserving tradition. It will also require demonstrating purpose. According to palace watchers, this understanding may become one of the defining characteristics of his future reign. Because while previous generations frequently focused on protecting the institution from external pressures, William appears increasingly associated with the idea of adapting the institution in order to strengthen it. This distinction may seem subtle, yet many observers believe it carries enormous significance. Several royal commentators have pointed out that William's public initiatives often reveal clues about this mindset. Whether focusing on homelessness, environmental issues, mental health awareness, or community engagement, he has frequently emphasized practical outcomes rather than symbolic gestures alone. That approach has encouraged some analysts to speculate that a future reign under William could prioritize measurable impact alongside ceremonial tradition. According to many observers, this possibility helps explain why conversations about William's future kingship continue generating such widespread interest. People are not simply curious about who will wear the crown. People are curious about how the crown may be used. They're curious about leadership style. They're curious about priorities. They're curious about whether the monarchy of the future will look substantially different from the monarchy of today. Several palace analysts have suggested that this curiosity intensified as William became increasingly visible during periods when King Charles III reduced certain public activities. The more responsibilities William assumed, the more observers began viewing him not merely as an heir waiting for the future, but as a leader already developing the skills required for eventual kingship. This perception reportedly changed the way many people interpreted his public appearances. A speech was no longer simply a speech. An engagement was no longer simply an engagement. Each appearance became an opportunity for commentators to search for clues regarding the future direction of the monarchy. According to several royal watchers, this growing attention has created a fascinating situation. Prince William remains heir to the throne. King Charles III remains monarch. The constitutional structure remains unchanged. Yet public discussion increasingly focuses on the future rather than the present. And as that future attracts greater attention, many observers have begun asking an even more intriguing question. If William eventually becomes king and brings with him a vision centered around efficiency, modernization, and long-term planning, how might that approach affect the people, relationships, and structures that have become familiar during the reign of King Charles III? According to several commentators, that question may provide the first real clue to understanding why speculation surrounding William's future reign continues expanding across royal circles throughout Britain and beyond. According to several royal commentators, one of the most frequently discussed aspects of a future reign under Prince William is the possibility that he could accelerate efforts toward a more focused and streamlined monarchy, a concept that has been debated within royal circles for many years. The phrase, streamlined monarchy, is often misunderstood. Some people assume it refers to reducing traditions. Others assume it means weakening the institution. However, many analysts argue that the concept actually revolves around concentration rather than reduction. The objective is not necessarily to do less. The objective is to focus more intensely on activities that provide the greatest public value and institutional impact. Several palace observers have suggested that William has long appeared sympathetic to this philosophy. Throughout his public life, he has frequently demonstrated an interest in practical outcomes, measurable results, and initiatives capable of producing long-term benefits rather than temporary publicity. According to commentators, this mindset could significantly influence the structure of a future reign. Rather than expanding the number of people involved in major royal responsibilities, some analysts believe William may prefer a model in which a smaller group of senior royals carries a larger share of the institution's most important public duties. This idea has generated extensive discussion because it represents a substantial departure from earlier periods of royal history, when the monarchy often relied upon a much larger network of working royals performing engagements throughout Britain and across the Commonwealth. Several royal commentators have noted that modern public expectations differ considerably from those of previous generations. Today's audiences frequently evaluate institutions according to efficiency, transparency, and visible effectiveness. As a result, many observers believe future royal leadership may need to demonstrate not only continuity, but also adaptability. According to palace analysts, Prince William appears particularly aware of this reality. He belongs to a generation that grew up witnessing rapid technological change, shifting media environments, and evolving public attitudes toward institutions. Consequently, many commentators believe he understands that maintaining public trust will require constant engagement with contemporary concerns rather than relying exclusively upon historical prestige. This perception has encouraged widespread speculation regarding what priorities might dominate the opening phase of his reign. Several observers have suggested that issues involving community impact, environmental sustainability, mental health advocacy, and social mobility could receive even greater prominence than they do today. Not because ceremonial traditions would disappear, not because constitutional responsibilities would change, but because William has consistently demonstrated interest in areas where the monarchy can combine symbolic leadership with practical influence. According to many commentators, this possibility helps explain why discussions regarding William's future reign often feel different from discussions surrounding previous successions. Historically, public curiosity frequently centered on personality. Today, curiosity increasingly centers on strategy. People want to understand not merely who William is. People want to understand how he thinks. They want to understand how he approaches problems. They want to understand how he evaluates the role of the monarchy in a 21st century society. Several palace watchers have argued that these questions become even more significant when considering the network of relationships that currently surrounds the institution. Every reign gradually develops its own circle of advisors, trusted associates, charitable partners, and influential figures. Over time, these relationships become part of the broader identity of a monarch's era. According to analysts, this reality naturally generates speculation regarding how a future William reign might differ from the reign of King Charles III. Not because William would seek dramatic change, not because existing relationships would suddenly disappear, but because every monarch inevitably develops distinct priorities, distinct working styles, and distinct approaches to leadership. Several commentators have suggested that this is where much of the public fascination originates. People understand that a future reign under William would likely preserve the monarchy's essential foundations. The crown would remain. The constitutional framework would remain. The ceremonial traditions would remain. Yet within that continuity, observers believe subtle but meaningful shifts could emerge. Shifts in emphasis, shifts in visibility, shifts in the way responsibilities are distributed and communicated. According to many royal analysts, Catherine, Princess of Wales, may play an especially important role within this process. Over the years, Catherine has developed an exceptionally strong reputation for stability, professionalism, and public trust. As a result, many commentators believe a future king and queen partnership involving William and Catherine could become one of the central defining features of the monarchy's next era. This possibility has encouraged increasing attention toward the Wales family as a whole. Because when people imagine William's first days as king, they rarely imagine William alone. They imagine Catherine beside him. They imagine the next generation of royals gradually assuming greater visibility. They imagine a monarchy preparing itself for decades rather than years. Several palace observers have argued that this future-focused perspective may ultimately explain why public interest in William continues growing even before any transition occurs. People are not simply observing an heir. They are observing a potential blueprint for the monarchy's future. And according to many commentators, that blueprint may involve changes that are less dramatic than headlines often suggest, but far more significant in the long term. Because while institutions rarely transform overnight, they often evolve through a series of carefully considered decisions that gradually redefine influence, responsibility, and public expectations. And according to several analysts, that raises an even more intriguing question. If William's future reign emphasizes efficiency, modernization, and a more focused leadership structure, how might those priorities reshape the balance of influence surrounding the monarchy and alter the way royal authority is perceived both inside and outside palace walls? According to several royal commentators, whenever discussions turn toward the possibility of a future reign under Prince William, one of the most intriguing questions involves influence rather than authority. Authority is relatively easy to understand. The monarch occupies a clearly defined constitutional position. Official responsibilities are established through long-standing traditions and legal frameworks. The structure itself remains remarkably stable. Influence, however, operates very differently. Influence is shaped by relationships. Influence is shaped by visibility. Influence is shaped by trust, proximity, and the priorities of the individuals occupying positions of leadership. Several palace analysts have suggested that this distinction helps explain why public fascination often centers on the people surrounding a monarch as much as the monarch himself. Every reign develops its own network of influential figures. Some are family members, some are advisors, some are charitable partners, some are individuals whose perspectives gradually become associated with the broader identity of a particular era. According to many commentators, this reality naturally encourages speculation regarding how a future reign under William might differ from the reign of King Charles III. Not because William would necessarily seek dramatic changes, not because existing relationships would suddenly disappear, but because each generation inevitably develops its own leadership culture. Several royal observers have pointed out that King Charles III's reign reflects priorities shaped by decades of experience, personal interests, charitable initiatives, and relationships cultivated over an exceptionally long public career. As a result, many of the figures associated with the current era became influential through years of shared work, mutual trust, and institutional familiarity. According to palace analysts, a future reign under William would likely develop its own equivalent network over time. The individuals most closely associated with William's public priorities would naturally attract greater visibility. The causes receiving his strongest support would likely receive increased attention. The initiatives most closely aligned with his long-term vision would become increasingly central to discussions surrounding the monarchy. Several commentators have argued that this process occurs during every generational transition. The institution remains, the crown remains, the constitutional framework remains. Yet emphasis gradually shifts as new leadership introduces different experiences, different perspectives, and different strategic priorities. According to many observers, William's experiences differ significantly from those of previous generations in several important respects. He came of age during an era dominated by digital media. He witnessed firsthand how public institutions adapted to rapidly changing communication technologies. He experienced unprecedented levels of global media attention from an early age. And perhaps most importantly, he developed his public identity during a period when public trust increasingly depended upon transparency, relevance, and visible impact. Several palace watchers have suggested that these experiences may influence how William approaches leadership in the future. Rather than viewing influence primarily through traditional structures, many analysts believe he may place greater emphasis on effectiveness, public engagement, and measurable outcomes. This does not mean abandoning tradition. Instead, according to commentators, it may involve identifying which traditions continue strengthening the institution and which practices require adaptation to remain effective in a changing world. Such discussions inevitably generate interest regarding how different groups connected to the current royal landscape might fit within a future William reign. Observers frequently debate which relationships could become more prominent. They speculate about which initiatives may receive greater emphasis. They analyze which public figures appear increasingly aligned with William's priorities. According to several analysts, these conversations often reveal more about public expectations than about actual palace planning. People naturally attempt to imagine the future. They look for clues. They identify patterns. They examine public appearances, speeches, and charitable work in search of indications regarding what may come next. Several royal commentators have noted that one recurring theme consistently emerges from these discussions: the growing prominence of Catherine, Princess of Wales. Whenever analysts attempt to envision a future reign under William, Catherine almost inevitably becomes a central part of the conversation. This is not simply because she would become queen. It is because many observers increasingly view William and Catherine as a partnership rather than as separate public figures operating independently. Over time, their public identities have become closely connected through shared initiatives, shared priorities, and a shared emphasis on family, stability, and long-term preparation. According to palace observers, this perception may ultimately become one of the defining features of the monarchy's next chapter. Previous generations often emphasized individual leadership. Many commentators believe the future may place greater emphasis on collaborative leadership involving William and Catherine working together as complementary figures within the institution. Several analysts have argued that this possibility helps explain why Catherine's visibility has grown so significantly over recent years. People are not merely observing the Princess of Wales. They are increasingly observing a future queen whose influence may become one of the most important factors shaping the monarchy's public image. According to many royal watchers, this development represents a subtle but highly significant shift. Because as discussions surrounding William's future reign continue expanding, the focus is gradually moving beyond questions of succession and toward questions of leadership style. And within those discussions, one conclusion appears repeatedly. If William's future monarchy is defined by modernization, efficiency, and strategic focus, then Catherine may become one of the most influential partners the institution has seen in generations. And according to several commentators, that possibility raises an even larger question. If William and Catherine eventually become the defining partnership of the monarchy's next era, how dramatically could their combined influence reshape public expectations regarding what a modern king and queen should represent in the 21st century? According to several royal commentators, if Prince William eventually becomes king, one of the most significant factors shaping the character of his reign may not be a constitutional change, a dramatic reform, or even a major policy initiative. Instead, many observers believe the defining feature of the next era could be the partnership between William and Catherine. Throughout royal history, successful monarchs have often benefited from trusted figures standing beside them. Sometimes those figures operated largely behind the scenes. Sometimes they played highly visible public roles. In either case, their influence frequently extended far beyond what formal titles alone might suggest. Several palace analysts have argued that Catherine has gradually evolved into precisely this kind of figure. When she first entered royal life, much of the public discussion focused on adjustment, adaptation, and the challenges associated with joining one of the world's most scrutinized families. Over time, however, those conversations changed dramatically. Today, according to many commentators, Catherine is rarely discussed as someone adapting to royal life. Instead, she is increasingly discussed as someone helping shape it. This shift represents one of the most remarkable developments of the modern royal era. Several royal observers have noted that Catherine's public reputation has been built through consistency rather than spectacle. She rarely generates attention through controversy. She rarely dominates headlines through dramatic statements. She rarely seeks publicity for its own sake. Yet despite this relatively restrained approach, her influence within public discussions continues expanding. According to analysts, this growth reflects a simple reality. Trust accumulates, and over many years, Catherine has accumulated substantial public trust. Several palace commentators have suggested that this trust may become one of the monarchy's most valuable assets during a future William reign. Institutions depend upon credibility. Institutions depend upon confidence. Institutions depend upon public belief that those representing them are capable, responsible, and committed to service. According to many observers, Catherine increasingly embodies those qualities in the eyes of large sections of the public. This perception has encouraged commentators to speculate about how a future king and queen partnership might operate, not because anyone knows exactly what the future holds, not because plans have been publicly announced, but because patterns have already begun emerging. Several royal analysts have pointed out that William and Catherine frequently appear aligned on major priorities. Both emphasize family stability. Both demonstrate interest in long-term social issues. Both often focus on practical impact rather than symbolic gestures alone. And both appear aware that modern audiences expect institutions to remain connected to contemporary concerns. According to palace watchers, this shared perspective could become enormously influential. For decades, discussions regarding royal leadership often centered primarily on individual figures. Many commentators believe the next era could place greater emphasis on partnership, a king and queen working together, a shared public mission, a coordinated effort to balance tradition with modernization. Several observers have suggested that this possibility explains why Catherine's visibility has increased so noticeably over recent years. People are not simply observing her current responsibilities. They are evaluating her future potential. Every appearance is interpreted through that lens. Every major engagement contributes to a broader narrative regarding the role she may eventually occupy. According to many commentators, this process has created an unusual situation. Catherine remains Princess of Wales, yet public discussion increasingly treats her as a future queen whose influence is already growing. Several palace analysts have argued that this perception could significantly affect the broader structure of a future reign. Whenever institutions enter new eras, attention naturally concentrates around figures who embody their long-term direction. For many observers, William and Catherine increasingly represent precisely that direction. Not because they reject existing traditions, not because they seek dramatic transformation, but because they appear committed to preserving the monarchy while adapting it to changing expectations. According to royal commentators, this balancing act may ultimately define the success of the next generation. Preserving history without becoming trapped by it, embracing modernization without abandoning continuity, maintaining relevance without sacrificing dignity. These challenges will not disappear when William eventually becomes king. If anything, they may become even more important. Several analysts have suggested that the strength of William and Catherine's partnership could prove crucial in addressing those challenges. Because while monarchs often symbolize institutions, partnerships frequently determine how effectively those institutions operate. A trusted partnership can project stability. A trusted partnership can inspire confidence. A trusted partnership can help navigate periods of uncertainty. According to many observers, this is why discussions surrounding a future William reign so often return to Catherine. The conversation is no longer merely about succession. The conversation is increasingly about leadership, and many commentators believe Catherine may become one of the most influential figures shaping how that leadership is perceived both within Britain and throughout the wider world. As these discussions continue evolving, one final question increasingly captures the attention of royal analysts. If William and Catherine eventually become the defining partnership of the monarchy's next chapter, could their combined influence reshape not only how the institution operates, but also how future generations understand the very purpose of the crown itself? According to several royal commentators, the most important question surrounding Prince William's future reign has never been whether he will become king. That outcome is already understood. The far more interesting question is what kind of king he will become once that moment eventually arrives. Because throughout modern royal history, every monarch has inherited the same institution while simultaneously leaving behind a distinctly different legacy. The crown remains, the constitution remains, the ceremonial framework remains. Yet each reign develops its own character, its own priorities, and its own relationship with the public. Several palace analysts have suggested that William's future reign could prove particularly significant because it arrives at a moment when public expectations are evolving rapidly. Modern audiences expect transparency. Modern audiences expect relevance. Modern audiences expect institutions to demonstrate value rather than merely rely upon tradition. According to many commentators, William appears unusually aware of these realities. Over the course of his public life, he has consistently demonstrated an interest in practical outcomes, long-term planning, and initiatives designed to address contemporary challenges. As a result, many observers believe his reign could be defined less by preserving existing systems exactly as they are and more by ensuring those systems remain effective in a changing world. Several royal watchers have argued that this perspective explains why discussions regarding William's future often generate such intense interest. People are not merely imagining a succession. People are imagining a transformation, not a revolutionary transformation, not a constitutional transformation, but a generational transformation, a transition from one era of royal leadership to another. According to commentators, this is where Catherine's role becomes increasingly important. Whenever analysts discuss the future monarchy, they rarely focus exclusively on William. Instead, they almost immediately expand the conversation to include Catherine. This pattern has become so consistent that many palace observers no longer view it as coincidence. Rather, they view it as evidence of how strongly the public associates the future of the monarchy with the partnership William and Catherine have built together. Several analysts have suggested that this partnership may ultimately become one of the defining strengths of the next reign. William brings preparation, experience, and a growing reputation for strategic thinking. Catherine brings stability, trust, and an extraordinary ability to connect with audiences across multiple generations. Together, according to many commentators, they represent a combination that could help the monarchy navigate challenges while maintaining public confidence. This possibility becomes even more significant when considering the next generation. Prince George, Princess Charlotte, Prince Louis. These young royals represent decades of future continuity. As William and Catherine gradually assume greater responsibilities, public attention increasingly focuses not only on their leadership, but also on the environment they are creating for the generation that will eventually follow them. Several palace observers have argued that this long-term perspective distinguishes William from many historical heirs. He is not preparing for a reign measured in months or years. He is preparing for a reign that may influence the monarchy for decades. According to commentators, this reality helps explain why discussions surrounding efficiency, modernization, and institutional focus continue appearing whenever analysts examine William's future. The objective, many believe, is not change for its own sake. The objective is sustainability. The objective is ensuring that the monarchy remains respected, relevant, and capable of fulfilling its role long into the future. Several royal analysts have suggested that this broader vision may ultimately prove more important than any individual decision made during the opening days of a future reign. Because while headlines often focus on dramatic moments, institutions are usually shaped by accumulated choices made consistently over long periods of time. One decision influences another. One priority shapes the next. Eventually, a distinct identity begins to emerge. According to many observers, signs of that identity may already be visible today. The emphasis on family, the emphasis on preparation, the emphasis on purposeful public engagement, the emphasis on balancing tradition with adaptation. All of these themes repeatedly appear whenever commentators discuss William and Catherine. Several palace watchers believe those themes may eventually become the defining characteristics of the monarchy's next chapter. Not because they have been officially announced, not because they have been formally codified, but because they consistently emerge through the actions, priorities, and public image associated with the future king and queen. According to many commentators, this is why fascination surrounding William's future reign continues growing even before any transition occurs. People sense that they are observing more than preparation. They believe they may be observing the early foundations of a new era. Whether that perception ultimately proves accurate remains impossible to know. What can be said with greater certainty is that public interest shows no sign of fading. If anything, curiosity appears stronger than ever. Because whenever people discuss Prince William's future, they are really discussing something much larger. They are discussing the future of the monarchy itself. They are discussing how one of the world's oldest institutions may adapt to one of the world's fastest changing eras. And they are discussing the individuals expected to guide that journey. So what do you think? Do you believe Prince William would bring significant changes to the monarchy from his very first days as king? Or do you think continuity would remain the dominant feature of his reign? Do you believe Catherine, Princess of Wales, will become one of the most influential queens of the modern era? Or do you think public expectations surrounding her future role have grown too ambitious? And perhaps most importantly, if Prince William eventually becomes king, what single change do you believe would have the greatest impact on the future of the British monarchy? Share your thoughts in the comments below, because this debate continues generating fascinating discussion among royal watchers across Britain, the United States, Canada, Australia, and throughout the wider Commonwealth. If you enjoyed today's discussion, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest royal analysis, palace developments, royal family updates, and in-depth discussions involving Prince William, Catherine, Princess of Wales, King Charles III, Queen Camilla, Prince George, Princess Charlotte, Prince Louis, and the future direction of the British monarchy. Because according to many royal observers, the most consequential moments in royal history are not always marked by crowns, ceremonies, or public declarations. Sometimes they begin quietly through preparation, vision, and the gradual emergence of leaders who spend years shaping the future long before the world realizes a new era has already begun.